Hey, disturbed listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
Anything like that. But at the same time, like, I guess we never really had like an in-depth conversation about it. And I wanted to make sure that whatever did happen that night, I mean, if there is something that I need to be concerned about.
This is something that
So it's great. We can think of a lot of worse ways to bring this up. I can't really think of any better way to bring it up. Sal is like, hey, it's been on my mind. Because I did think the way that they resolved that seemed odd to me, that he's sitting there watching Malory and Jarrett really, hit it off during the party in the bar. Now, they're just talking, so there's nothing inherently threatening about that. But he did know, Sal, that Malory had feelings for Jarrett, that Jarrett proposed to her, that she turned him down in a way that was very sad for her, that when Malory met Sal, there was some ambivalence there. So there's reasons to be concerned, at least a little bit. Sal got what seemed to be pretty hammered and then was really sad and crying and says he just want to go home. You just want to go home. Then later we saw a scene where he's apologizing. I'm guessing that when she got back to the room, he was being unfair and upset, and so he apologized, and the pole hit him in the head, and that was an omen. And then, so now they're having a conversation about it. This is good. So I think for him, he's like, that thing happened. I overreacted. I apologized and didn't bring it up again. But now that we've recovered, I still want to talk about it when I'm sober, although they just started drinking.
I felt like what happened, we talked about, and we were good. I don't understand, like, where.
I guess it worried me that you and him were talking for so long, and I just read into it.
When we talked before, you're like, well, I'm not jealous. How did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think Malory could be a little bit more self-disclosing, because I would be surprised. She's giving this impression like, what's this all about? When she could easily have in her heart this, she could say, well, yeah, I mean, I had feelings for Jarrett, but I rejected him. I wanted to be with you. And then when I saw you, I was like kind of overwhelmed, and I'm still kind of processing all this, but I'm here for, now I don't know where her heart is, because it seems like maybe her heart is kind of, honestly, if I was to take a bet, I would say her heart is with neither, that she doesn't want to be with Sal or Jarrett. Anyway, so she is saying, you said earlier you don't get jealous. Everyone gets jealous. It actually bothers me when people say they don't get jealous. Now, some people are poly-oriented who they have a very high bar for jealousy. But jealousy is, and some people think jealousy is like a bad emotion. It's not, or shame is a bad emotion, or anger. There are no bad emotions. We just have emotions, and they serve us, but we just have to understand them and differentiate, right? So sometimes, if your partner is spending all of their time with their former partner, or with someone that they are attracted to, then we have a feeling of, I'm going to lose my partner to this other person, and then I have pain and worry. That's jealousy. That's a good feeling. You want your partners, even if you're in a poly situation, there are rules that polyamorous couples will follow, meaning that there's consent and premeditation and discussions beforehand. So now there are swingers who might have a more open door policy, that kind of stuff. Anyway, point is that there are, in every relationship, whether it's romantic or work or friendship or family, there are always rules. There are, unwritten rules about what the relationships, what you're supposed to do. Like in my family, if my siblings have a birthday party, the rule is I go. Now, I gladly follow that rule, in the same way that it's also a rule with my wife that I don't get together with other women. I gladly follow that rule. It's fine. But there are rules. And so when a rule is broken, it is inherently threatening, and then we feel jealous. So he was saying he doesn't feel jealousy, and I want to return to my initial hypothesis about him intellectualizing a lot or subduing his emotions. And then when he got intoxicated, that's when all of his emotion came out. And so I wonder if we'll see, I don't know that, but so apparently he was saying I'm not a jealous person, when of course it's just like, of course you're jealous. Everyone's a jealous person under the right circumstances. Now, some people out there might say like, I've literally never felt jealousy. So one, you might be extremely cool with your partner's doing things that might threaten. You might be very trusting. You might also have had partners that never did things to threaten you. You might also have never been that attached to a romantic partner such that you worry about losing that person. So there's variables there, but my point is that everyone has the capacity for worry about losing a relationship.
Honestly, Mel, like, I don't know if this is me just imagining things. After you spoke to Jarrett, I thought I heard you say that we don't necessarily have to get married.
Okay, so I think he's referring to after she was done talking with Jarrett, and perhaps when they went back to the hotel room, I'm guessing, and he was like upset, and she said something along the lines of, we don't have to get married. And I don't know, just speculating that he's foggy on the conversation because he was intoxicated. Let's see.
It bothered me. I would look.
Why is this happening right now? I'm feeling just like a little like blindsided by all this.
Huh? Like, blindsided by what? What's the blind side? Does she feel accused? I wonder if so if I was to take a guess, she is extremely ambivalent. I mean, she has stated as much about Sal, and she doesn't want to talk about it because she doesn't want to reject him. She doesn't want to hurt his feelings. Maybe she's thinking she wants to give it more time so that a feeling will grow in her for him. Or she's in denial, which I think can happen in these situations of like, I'll just put my head in the sand. I'm not at the wedding yet. So I'm a bit confused as to why she feels blindsided by this.
I said if we felt like at the end of this that we weren't ready to like get married, then it's okay if we don't.
I understand
Like, we
that.
talked about
I
this-
just didn't understand why that was the first thing that was said when we talked right after you had spoken to Jarrett.
Okay, so if I were Malory, I would be a little confused by that as well. It's just like, what do you mean? Now, I think if he were to be more specific to his feelings, I think he would say, I'm guessing, that, look, ever since we met in person, there have been moments where I felt like you really loved me, and there are moments where I feel like you do not love me and that you don't want to be with me. Just little bits of vibe here and there, or a lack of you really demonstrate. I watch the other couples and I see how much some people talk, the way they talk to each other. I don't really hear a lot of that from you. I don't get that vibe of someone who is, really into me the way I'm into you. I don't know, maybe I'm just reading into it, but I think if he said something like that, then it would be more accurate or less debatable. But right now he's like, how come you brought up a fact that we can back out of this at any time, either one of us, after you talked to Jarrett? I could see for her, she's like, I don't understand what's happening.
And I did think that you weren't interested.
In you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even like what was necessarily said, so.
What was said then?
Just imagine, for those of you who love your partner, whether it's, a month in or 10 or 20 years in, and your partner said to you, so I've just been wondering if you're really into me. I don't really know. I would hope the first thing you would say is, oh my God, I am so into you. I'm sorry that I gave you that impression. No, I love you. There's no question in my mind. Malory is not saying that.
In that sense. The first thing that was said to me after that Jarrett conversation was that.
He did make a little bit of a comment about like my ring not being gold. It could have been right after the comment was made about the ring, and then in my head I felt like, well, I don't know.
If I were Sal, I'd be like, what does that have to do with anything? I'm basically giving you, now he's not being super clear. He could be more clear, like I was saying, but I'm basically telling you, I'm not sure if you love me and if you want to be with me. And then she's like, well, maybe it was because he was talking about the fact that you got me the wrong kind of ring, and maybe that was on the mind. I mean, that seems like a stretch. So maybe she's just not aware. Now, I could be wrong about all this. Maybe she totally loves him. They're going to get married, and I'm just not reading it right. But the way it looks is that she's evading.
Do you know me then? Like, I don't know, like maybe I'm a little bit in my head then too. Maybe you really don't want to get married to me. Like maybe, why did you propose to me? Do you really want to get married at the end of this? Maybe it was a little bothered that I felt like all the women like had like exactly the type of ring that they were like really wanted.
Wait, what? Okay, I mean, maybe she's right. I don't have any data, but that seems like a huge stretch, and it seems like pawning off to him the ambivalence. He's not ambivalent. He wants to be with her. And now she's saying, well, maybe you're the one that's ambivalent. Maybe you're blaming me for what's going on in you. And it's wow. So let's rewind this, because I feel like there's a lot that's happening here. Let's see.
I don't know, like maybe I'm a little bit in my head then too. Maybe you really don't want to get married to me. Like maybe, why did you propose to me? Do you really want to get married at the end of this? Maybe it was a little bothered that I felt like all the women like had like exactly the type of ring that they were like really wanted or kind of had mentioned.
Okay, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, and it was clearly stated to her that she wanted a gold ring, and Jarrett mentioning that, like, I see that you don't have a gold ring. It's silver, or white gold as they call it. I don't know. And then she started to question his love based on that. I mean, if your love for someone depends on that kind of thing, like, that's pretty thin ground to stand on. But so, and again, I just think if I were to take a guess, she's evading and trying to displace blame onto him to try to get out of this conversation because she feels guilty for the possibility of dumping him, which is good that you have a heart and compassion enough to be like, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I don't know if you're doing him any good by evading this way. But I don't know. I could be completely wrong. Maybe she's 100% in it. But do we really believe that? Do we really believe that Malory is 100% in this relationship with Sal? There's really so many pieces of evidence. But let's say that's true, just for the sake of argument. And maybe that's happening, and she really is like trying to grasp at straws as to why he's insecure or something. But I don't see why you wouldn't just do what I said earlier. We're just like, oh my God, okay, forget about all this stuff. I want to reassure. If you were 100% in it, you would say, I just want to reassure you, I'm in this. Like, make no doubt about it. I want to marry you. I'm in love with you. Da, 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 da. Like, she hasn't said anything along those lines.
It's beautiful, and I love it. I didn't make a big deal about it because it isn't. But I think I got a little bit in my head with that comment and feeling a little, like, slighted. Sometimes I can't tell, like, how much you really care about me.
So on one hand, what? But on the other hand, it is in line with my hypothesis about his demeanor. He's caring, and he seems sincere-ish. I don't think he's lying. That's not my point. My point is that I think he's just extremely uptight. Not extremely. There are more uptight people than him, seemingly. I don't know. We've only seen a little bit of his behavior, but I wonder, because when he says he's in love with her and he has these gestures, it seems like a sales pitch. If I was to put it into a frame like that, it seems like the way that professionals talk to each other, when they're giving a presentation, instead of think about the way that Danielle, and particularly I guess Danielle, talks, or the way that even Shane and Natalie talk to each other when they're being real. Sal doesn't exhibit that, and he exhibited emotion when he was intoxicated. So we use this as a jumping off point. I know nothing about Sal, but I will tell you that for many people, they went through experiences, either mistreatment, lack of attunement, or socialization that results, and or all the above, that results in them as adults neurologically not being in connection with their emotions, to the point where even if you said, I'll give you $1 billion if you stop restricting your emotions, they wouldn't be able to do it, because it's just neurologically the way that things are. Now, you can change that neurology over time. You can practice it and reconnect and build new pathways of connection with your emotions and expression of that. So some people are like that, and when you interact with them, you might take a certain level of safety in the fact that they never explode, but there's also a distance that is felt by people like that, where you're like, I don't know how to put my finger on this, but I just feel like I don't feel a connection with you, because they're not invested. They don't seem spontaneous. One of the things about feeling really safe and also being in a relationship with someone is you feel like there's a quick emotional back and forth between you and the other person. And when there's a barrier there, even though you're not getting any hostility or anger or bad things, there's just it slows the emotional back and forth down, and it doesn't feel compelling.
Or my fiance, and I want to do that. Look, I know you love your ring, and I could have asked more details, and that's my fault. At the end of the day, I chose this ring, and I wanted to give it to you.
And I love it.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery. I'm confused by Malory and Sal, for sure. I mean, I have my guesses about what's going on, but it's hard to read what's happening.
Well, it looks gorgeous on you.
Seriously, I absolutely love it.
So, like, this is for real, like, the conversations that y'all were having, like, I want to know the vibe.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt like the most intense therapy I've ever had in my life. Like,
yeah.
it was hard. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine that that's true for a lot of people, that because you're just sitting in this room by yourself and you're just talking about yourself for hours and hours with many, many people, and then eventually start narrowing in on certain people, and then you really just talk, and there's no distraction, there's no phones. And that's what therapy is. When I meet with clients, everyone turns off their phones, there's no distractions, there's no TV, you're not eating dinner, they get babysitters for the kids. I try to have an office that's very cozy and soundproof and comfortable, and I'm fully paying attention, because that's the other thing, is you have another person's full attention that you don't usually get. In fact, sometimes you could go years without someone really paying attention to you. That's why therapy is such a unique space in a lot of ways. Now, some people do have good listeners in their life, but anyway, so Sal is saying it was very therapeutic in a way, which I could absolutely see.
From Mexico to now, like, there's been nothing. We've been on the same page this entire time.
it's good, man.
One good thing that my dad told me is, no matter what issues you have, what disagreements you have, never go to sleep angry. Never go to sleep angry.
I have gone to sleep angry, though.
So it's not a bad principle to follow, but it's not like it's scientifically demonstrated to be destructive. I think the idea is that you should try earlier than later, try to resolve a conflict that you have, because the longer the conflict lives in your relationship, the more degradation can occur. Not necessarily, but can. So, but there's no like biological thing that occurs while you're sleeping if you're in conflict. In fact, for some people, they actually will cope with conflict by sleeping, and when they wake up, they feel completely different, in a different mood, and they're ready to have a conversation about. So, yeah, I think the wisdom statement should be, when you're ready and as soon as possible, try to resolve a conflict, because the longer it lasts, the more deleterious effect it's going to have on each other's love and your relationship. But not going to bed, you know. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, it might also be a good principle if you really believe it as some sort of dogma, like it's a transgression upon your relationship if you go to bed angry. Because, you know, if you follow, it's sort of dogma around your relationship that you just follow that rule, that it would perhaps be more scary if you're really afraid of it, like you believe it's some sort of, some sort of rule you're not supposed to break, that it might motivate you before you go to bed to be like, okay, I've got to get in the right mind space and approach my partner and resolve this. Like, I could see that working.
I do. And we hung out at that bar. And honestly, man, like, Malory talked to me about the comment that was made about her ring. And I don't know, bro, like, it was just like, I know that she didn't appreciate that comment. Like,
okay, this is interesting. I didn't know this is where it was going. So Sal, I think, is confronting Jarrett about Jarrett saying to Malory that, oh, I see he didn't get you the right kind of ring. And Sal is contending that Malory didn't appreciate it, like was upset at Jarrett. That certainly wasn't the way it looked. So that's interesting.
I mean, I said it jokingly because I know that she wanted a gold ring, but, you know, I wasn't trying to throw shade or anything. Like, you know how I am. You know I joke all the fucking time. Like, there was nothing where I was like, you know what, see, I would have got you this or I would have did that. Like, that was never a thing.
That's not entirely true, Jarrett. You were trying to undermine Sal. I think Jarrett at the time thought he was agreeing with Malory about it, that, you know, the way a friend might. It's just like, you know, this isn't the right person for you because da-da-da-da-da. So I think Jarrett was trying to help Malory. But you could also see how Jarrett would be unconscious, since Jarrett did propose to Malory first. You could see how it's not uncommon for someone to be like unconsciously or semi-consciously not wanting their former partners to be with anyone else, even though rationally that's ridiculous, right? And maybe that's what was happening with Jarrett. But, you know, what Jarrett is saying right now is yeah, it's not entirely true. He was throwing shade, and but he's admitting it. He's not like getting super defensive about it. So I don't know. Let's see how this goes.
We had our thing in the pods. She made her decision. I am perfectly fine with her decision. I tell her all the time, like, Sal's a great fucking dude. Like, you'll be lucky to end up with Sal. Anybody would have been fucking lucky to end up with you. And if you're happy, she's happy, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's the right thing to say. That's addressing the core of it for sure. That's good. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.